Something that I think is a really common experience at this time of year, at least in the places that get snow and that get really cold, I'm not sure how common this is in warmer places, is getting hit with kind of this seasonal sadness or this winter slump. It depends on the person. Sometimes it's a little more extreme, and sometimes it's just you're feeling a little more down than you typically do. You have less energy. I know that, especially for reference, for me, I'm Canadian. We have snow for at least 5 months out of the year. And especially this year, it differentiated from past years for the most part because we got snow for the first time in November, which is pretty normal, like it'll snow. But a lot of the time, when it snows for the first time, it doesn't stay, but it consistently stayed. We got snow early November and then it just stayed and it never went away. And maybe this isn't a universal thing, but I find it's not always as bad when it's leading up to Christmas time because when Christmas is coming up, at least in my personal experience, I associate the snow and the cold with Christmas and it gets me excited for it. But something that I would experience a lot in the past is the second that Christmas is over, I just fall into this slump and I'm miserable and I just want winter to be over and I don't want the sun to set at like 4 p.m. anymore. So I thought it would be good to talk about where this comes from in the first place because really it's hard to pin solutions down if you don't really know where this is coming from in the first place. Some of the advice that I have is from personal experience, but some of it is just scientific facts. And when you hear it, it starts to make a lot of sense. And yeah, this year for some reason, I'm not feeling it as much as I usually do. And to be fully honest with you, I haven't really had to take too much initiative on it and integrate some solutions into my routine or my habits because I haven't felt the need to. I haven't felt as miserable as I usually feel when it's cold. And honestly, it might be because I've been kind of on a high at this point in ED recovery. If you didn't know already, I struggled with an eating disorder last year, and I've been in recovery for the past few months, and things have been so much better. Recovery is so worth it. And if you've listened to the other episodes where I've said that, I'm always repeating the exact same thing, but it's so true. I cannot stress it enough that recovery is the best decision you will ever make for yourself. But either way, these are things that I have tried to implement in the past that have helped me through difficult times. So let's get started. So first off, I wanted to find kind of a word for word definition so that we can be on the same page about what this is. So according to Mayo Clinic, it's something called seasonal affective disorder or SAD, and it's a type of depression that's related to changes in seasons. If you're like most people with SAD, your symptoms start in the fall and continue into the winter months, sapping your energy and making you feel moody. And these symptoms often resolve during the spring and summer months. Sometimes it can cause depression in the early spring or summer and then resolves in the winter or fall, but it's not as common. So anyways, this can affect things such as your energy levels. You can start to feel sluggish. It can also affect sleeping habits, eating habits, losing interest in activities, and more. So a lot of things can cause and play into people feeling or experiencing something like this. But honestly, really at the root of it all is the lack of sunlight. Once you really start to break it down, you start to realize how big of a role this really plays into all of this. So basically, when you're exposed to less sunlight, it can disrupt your body's biological clock, which is called the circadian rhythm. It also says it can also be caused by the drastic drop in vitamin D levels. And essentially, you get most of your vitamin D from the sun, which boosts your serotonin. So when you're lacking that vitamin D, the serotonin, which is basically a brain chemical that affects your mood, drops as well. You could also be experiencing it from melatonin levels dropping. It says that when the seasons change, it disrupts the balance, which ultimately affects things like your mood or your sleep patterns. So now that we kind of know what this is and where it's coming from, I'm going to talk about basically 5 solutions that I have that I think can really help improve your situation if you're dealing with something like this. The first is to give yourself things to look forward to. Kind of romanticize your life and find joy in little things. When it's cold and dark all the time, it can be really daunting. And if you have something to look forward to, it doesn't have to be anything big. It can just be something small, like going to get coffee with a friend. You'd be surprised how much having these little things to look forward to can really motivate you and affect your mood. You can even write it down to get you even more excited. Not everyone has like a calendar or to-do list or a place where they write things down. But I'm a very type A person. I have a list on my iPad with dates and all of the things that are happening on those days. And then when I start to look at it, it really gets me excited and it helps me get through the tougher or harder times. And really just try to romanticize little things. Because when it's hot out and the weather's beautiful and you're seeing people and doing things all the time, you don't even really need to purposely romanticize the life because alone it already feels like an amazing situation. You don't have to look at it from a different perspective to see the excitement or beauty in it. I've talked about this before, but a lot of times in the past, I have looked at routine and repetitivity as a negative thing, but really just try to romanticize the idea of the dependency and the safety. It's only boring if you look at it from a boring perspective. So once you give yourself things or events to look forward to, or things to be excited about, you might be surprised about how much improvement is happening right in front of you. The next thing, get as much vitamin D as you can. Sunlight hours and hours where it's nice out in the winter are very, very limited. So anytime that the sun is out, anytime you have the chance, try to get out and try to get out in the sun. I also started taking vitamin D supplements in recovery because it helps with bone density, but I think in a way it's also helped with my energy and my mood because it's giving me vitamin D that I'm lacking if I'm not out in the sun as often. And again, maybe it's placebo. I've just been kind of on this high, kind of in the honeymoon stage of recovery, so it's really hard to know what's helping me or if it's just because I'm in a state where I'm shocked about how good I feel because I haven't felt this good in a really, really long time. It's like when you compare and contrast the two situations, obviously I'm going to feel amazing because the past scenario was terrible. But either way, just try to get vitamin D in as much as you can. Take supplements or just get it in natural state, go outside. Just try to put yourself in situations where you'll be able to get that because you're going to feel a lot better. And please don't mistake this for me thinking that it's easy. I know that it's not easy. I've been there. For most of the past winters, I have felt so isolated and so like zombie like. And like I'm just going through the movements and waiting for it to get warm again and bright again. And a lot of these tips sound very cliche and sound like they're repeating every single professional, but it's because I'm trying to enforce them because they're true. Because from personal experience, I have seen so much improvement. And honestly, it doesn't hurt to try. It doesn't hurt to try. None of these things are going to hurt you. I know you might be lacking the motivation to go out and do them, but take it step by step. Make it small. Don't go all the way. Don't put yourself in a situation that you know you're not going to have the energy to do. But once you make that first step, whether it's literally just going out and sitting in the sun for a little bit, by doing that one thing, it's going to make the next thing even easier. Next one kind of connects to the last one, but I cannot stress this enough. Try to exercise and move your body as much as you can. I know that when it's cold and you have low energy, you literally just want to curl up in a blanket and sit around. But exercise is going to help you so much. And it doesn't even have to be outside. Now, if you go outside on a walk, let's say you're getting two down at once, you're moving your body, which is going to reduce stress and also triggers dopamine and serotonin, which we know are things that are affected by the changes of season and by the lack of sunlight. But you're also going to get vitamin D while you're out there. So it's kind of going to be like double serotonin. And honestly, if you dress properly for it, a walk in the winter can be so enjoyable. It just feels so refreshing. It's gonna feel so good, I promise you. Just make sure you're dressed properly because obviously, if you go out in like freezing weather and you're not dressed properly, it's gonna be miserable and you're gonna get frostbite. But just make sure you're dressed properly and you will enjoy it. The next thing is to prioritize socializing. Do not isolate yourself. I remember it was, I think, a year and a half ago where I was going through a really rough patch mentally. I spent my first year in college in one program, and it was a very career oriented program. So I had my classes with all the same people. I got so close with so many people. And then I switched it to another program, which was very general, it was very independent. And I just felt so alone and I lacked so much motivation. And I felt so isolated and I just didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to do anything. I was skipping class all the time. There were so many instances where I would lie to my parents and say my class was canceled and it wasn't. I just didn't want to go out. I just wanted to stay home. And then I ended up failing a couple classes. It just was not a good situation for me at all. But isolating myself when I already felt so isolated just made it escalate and just made it worse. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It doesn't have to be anything that's insanely out of your comfort zone where you're not going to enjoy it. Just do something small. Find something small to do where you're going out and seeing people. And you don't even have to leave your house. Like, I just mean, it could also just be spending less time in your room and spending more time with your family. Whatever your situation is, just try to put yourself in more social situations because it's going to help so much. Because even just being people whose presences you enjoy will boost your serotonin. I remember during my ED, I felt so isolated and so alone, and I felt like a zombie. I didn't even feel like a real person. I would never go out and do things. Even at home, I would hardly spend time outside of my room. I was always in my room. But then I realized as I recovered and as I started to get better, I started to spend more time with my family. I'm not in here as often anymore. Even if I'm just doing schoolwork, I try to find a way to do it outside of my room if I can. The ED is a whole other situation because even when I would go to social events, it wouldn't help because I didn't feel like I was actually there. It's like my body and my mind weren't connected. Anyways, it's completely off topic, but it just goes to show socializing and doing things with people can help so much more than you know. So if you start to find yourself feeling isolated or feeling lonely, go on a drive with a friend, go to a friend's house, go out with someone for coffee. Just do something small. It doesn't have to be big. Just find something small that you can do where you're going to be socializing. Even if it's not going somewhere with someone, you could go to a public setting, go to the library, go somewhere where you're going to be around other people. Now, the last bit of advice that I have is to start to shift your perspective in regards to winter. Listen, I know you'll be thinking about winter and you'll be dreading it and you don't want it to come, or it is winter and you're just counting down the days until it's warm out and until the snow is gone. But listen, it happens every year, whether you like it or not. So why not try to build your life around that rather than letting it control you? Try to start to see the good in it and stop talking down on it so much because this actually applies to other situations. For instance, when it comes to your confidence, let's say you look in the mirror and you tell yourself, I hate how I look, I'm ugly, I'm not pretty, no one likes me. If you talk yourself down in the mirror, that's what you're going to start to believe. But if you start looking at yourself in the mirror and start talking positively about yourself, you're going to start to believe it. It really is fake it until you make it. You're going to start to believe it. And I'm saying this because I experienced this myself. When I started recovery, I was so upset about how my body was changing. But then I started to talk nicer to myself and tried to look at what I saw in the mirror in a loving and positive way. And then I started to feel that way about myself in reality. So it's kind of the same with winter. Start to look at it in a positive way. Start to, again, romanticize little things about it. Get yourself almost excited for winter, like maybe get some cute winter gear, something that's gonna get you into the mood of winter but in a positive way. Like, honestly, winter and fall are probably my favorite seasons for fashion because there's so much more that you can do. I find in the summer, you're just trying to wear as little as possible so you don't literally overheat. But in the winter, you can wear layers, and there's puffer coats, and there's Uggs, and there's sweat sets, and it's just so much fun. You can get so comfy while also looking and feeling cute. And for instance, I just ordered one of those big, like white, chunky scarves, and I'm so excited to wear it. It's so adorable. And yeah, just try to see the good in it. Try to look at it from a more positive angle. Besides, summer isn't over until Zara Larson says it is over. Anyways, that's going to be a wrap for today. I hope that the advice helped you in one way or another. I know that they were very general, but honestly, these things can help more than you know. And just know if you're dealing with seasonal sadness or seasonal depression or just facing this winter slump, you're not alone. There are so many other people who deal with this. But I promise it's going to get better. Try to implement these things as much as you can. Now, if you're implementing these things and you're still not really seeing any improvement, maybe it's time to reach out to a medical professional because it might be something a little more serious. It might be something that's a little more underlying that's not necessarily associated to the seasons. But either way, you're not alone, and I love you. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.